YouTube, Kennard Vernon Stewart here once again for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Okay, so Bryan Harsin on the recruiting trail lands Tony Fair. We talked about this yesterday, where Auburn pretty much needed Tony Fair to add some defense, but I got a couple of other reasons why Auburn needed Tony Fair, especially Bryan Harsin needed to land a guy like Tony Fair. Once again, like I said before, support the channel. If you could, make a little donation. Go ahead and hit that Cash App up. $ Kennard Stewart would be greatly appreciated, whether it's $1, whether it's $100. Everything is great on that end. I really appreciate it. But either way, we're going to get into this whole Tony Fair situation. Tony Fair, big guy, man, 6'2", maybe 6'3", depending on who's doing the measurements. 330 pounds, a big left to right wrecking crew at the nose tackle. Has already played some football in not Power 5, but FBS for sure. Up at UAB, always showed up to the big games. That's one thing that I loved on the video footage, is that Tony Fair shows up in the big games. And for a big guy, like I talked about in my other video, for a really, really big guy, he knows how to swim. He knows how to stick and move through those gaps. And he's not particularly slow. He's got great hand movements. He's very quick. He's very unnaturally agile for a guy that his size and girth. I think he's going to be a incredibly impactful guy in the middle of the football field. He's had a lot of experience, obviously. Originally committed to, I think, Nebraska to begin with. No, he was going to go to Nebraska during his second transfer deal out of community college, but on boards with UAB. Out of South Bend, Indiana, went to Pima Community College. Out there, he was an 86.4 recruit, a little lower end 3-star recruit. But that just goes to show that guys can get better. Guys can get much, much better. And I think, yes, the stars do matter. If you look at Alabama, the stars do matter. They recruit 5-star recruits, they win national championships. Clemson kind of sort of the same. Except there's some holes in Clemson's program because they tend to get blown out sometimes in the Final Four, i.e. LSU, or I think Ohio State got a hold of them too. But either way, Alabama, the more solid of the two aforementioned football teams. But either way, let's not get too far off track, because I want y'all to remember the reason for this video. Why Tony Fair's commitment is huge for Bryan Harsin's program. Bryan Harsin has been shooting his shot at recruits, especially the transfer portal. A lot of you guys know what shooting your shot. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys, you know what I'm talking about. You get in on Facebook, Instagram, you shoot your shot to a young lady to see, hey, I've been whatever. I think that stuff is weird, honestly, but you shoot your shot. You say, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to get to know you virtually. But anyway, Bryan Harsin has been shooting his recruiting shot to a lot of recruits across the country, and more urgently to guys in the transfer portal. Okay, great. There's a small problem, though. There was a couple of guys that he was shooting a shot to that turned him down. Ty Key from West Virginia, who chose to go to Georgia. That was I wouldn't say a crushing blow. I'm not sure the extent of time that Bryan Harsin had for this particular recruit, but I'm sure it didn't feel good. Even when you're used to winning, when you're used to landing guys, it just doesn't feel good. And if this stuff happens too much, then it starts to not look good. I think Tony Fair, as a recruit, as a prospect, was a guy from a perception standpoint, outside of what they're going to gain from his physicality and his talent, but from a perception standpoint. I don't care what y'all say. As an Auburn fan, you guys, if Tony Fair would have committed to Purdue or Ole Miss or Miles College in Birmingham or wherever, you all would have called, it would have been a state of emergency for the Auburn fan base. Man, we can't beat. Here's what they say. Here's what they're going to say now. Bryan Harsin with all that talk in the presser. Right? All that talk about how he's going to bring good guys, how the program is about to change. All that talk. Talk is cheap, right? All that talk to lose a recruit to Ole Miss and Purdue. Why would that be a problem? Well, the teams you want to beat recruit better than you as it is. LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M. Then you have a national, somewhat, I would say a regionally recognized announcement from Tony Fair. You know, I'm not going to go and say that Florida, you know, this was a battle against Florida State or Alabama, Georgia, Georgia Tech. This was a battle between Ole Miss and Purdue. And I say that to say this. If you're going to recruit well, you got to at least win the small battles. This would have been a crushing blow to the Bryan Harsin administration. The Auburn football fan base would have been, I don't care what you say. Even though it's not fair, but guys, life isn't fair. The Auburn fan base would have started to lose faith in Bryan Harsin and all the stuff that he talked about. How in the world, if you expect us to believe you, how do you expect us to believe you, if you will, if you can't beat out Purdue and Ole Miss in recruiting? You got to at least start somewhere. And this, I think this is a good game perception-wise for Bryan Harsin. Because now, don't get me wrong. I had, you know, at least a 80 to 90% level of faith in him and his administration landing Tony Fair. But there's always, I go back to that George Pickens rule. There's always that 10% level of error to where Joker may decide last minute, hey, you know what? Maybe Georgia makes sense. Maybe Purdue makes sense. Maybe even Ole Miss makes sense. But I think Auburn made sense for Tony Fair. You know, if you're going to leave one okay situation, why go to another okay situation? From a perception standpoint, because Purdue is definitely a quote-unquote okay situation. Ole Miss could be all right, but for all intents and purposes, even at their pinnacle, they're still just okay. They're still just Ole Miss. But Auburn is a little different. Auburn might not always have the wins to show for it, but Auburn is on TV all the time, as his other teams are on TV all the time. But historically, because of the flair of the dramatics for the Auburn Tigers, for some reason, they're on ESPN every week. Seems like. Just got the flair for the dramatics. Always comes down to the end. Crowd is absolutely amazing from a noise standpoint. Always get good ratings when you play Auburn. So why not come to Auburn? But anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. Just as I thought. Auburn needed this one. Because now this will help the fan base believe that you can get the spotlight signees. Because folks can say what they want, but I don't know if the regime, the past regime, even makes the top 5 on this one. If it would even be a matter of conversation. But anyway, always love talking to you guys. Go ahead and like the video, comment, click the bell twice. It's up there in the right corner. Click it twice. That way you don't miss any of the content. I do come out with a lot of content. Also, if you want to make donations, $ Kennard Stewart, KENNARD STEWART. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.